Hello and welcome to Ultra Greed Ninjas podcast, where we take an ultra greedy perspective on Magic the Gathering, helping new players find their way, helping them find out how to be ultra aggressive, ultra greed, according to Ultra Greed Media and Metallica 206. In the building, we have Wavy P and CJ Bangers here. Introduce yourself, CJ Bangers.
CJ Bangers, what up, dub?
Wavy P.
Yeah, it was good.
But yeah, Uh, Wavy P was on last time, episode 1. We got a new guest here, CJ Bangers. Let's just recover. Let's cover a little bit about maybe his perspective on some of the stuff that we talked about in that first episode. How do you go about mulliganing, CJ Bangers? What
Oh,
do you think about? What do you do when you mulligan?
okay. So as far as mulligan, um, let's just say, for example, my first 7 cards are like my win condition. So like right now, I'm running in like an MTG arena. I'm running a red black prowess deck. So like if I see monetary bane splitter with I'm sorry. What is
Miriam
it?
Bane Splitter?
Miriam Bane Spitter with Monetary Swift
Monastery
Spear.
Swiss
And I see my Cacophony Scamp and the Emberheart Challenger, and I got like 3 lands. I'm chilling, like that's pretty much like I'm not gonna mull, but like
But
if
what goes through your mind when you're making decisions to mulligan? When you see a hand, what are you thinking?
can I get not I wouldn't say seamless, but like let's just say on the best case scenario he can't play anything for 2 turns. Can I play something for 2 turns? Like that's kind of odd. My first 2 turns, can I set myself up towards my win condition? That's kind of what I think of.
That's all you really think about.
Yeah, like do I have a turn 1 play and do I have a turn 2 play? And then from my turn 1 and turn 2 is like, I can draw from like, what's going to be coming up. But as long as I have that turn 1, turn 2, and it can branch out to more, then I feel like like, that's how I get to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, what's interesting about what you just said is kind of how it's not a horrible perspective, but it's also a very new player perspective of a way to look at
Yeah, because
mulliganing.
I'm only looking as it to tailor to my deck or like my current deck that I'm running, as
Right.
opposed to overall mulligan. Like if I was running another deck, I would do something different. But that's just what I'm currently running, so that's just how I think of it.
Well, so overall, when you look at your hand, you want to be able to look at like what like because there's sometimes you have a turn 1, turn 2 will play, but especially in a best of 3 matchup when you know what you're up against after game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Where you look at your hand and be like, nothing here is relevant in this matchup, or not that nothing here is relevant, but I might have a turn 1 and turn 2 play, but they're not the turn 1 and turn 2 play I want in this matchup. You know what I'm saying? So that you have to look at stuff beyond that. It's like, what will I be able to pull off my strategy? What like how many turns do I have to take off? How many turns am I making plays? And what will I be able to do in the worst case of my hand? And what will I be able to do in the best case of my hand? Are some of the things you want to start thinking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just look at it as only turn 1 and turn 2, then you might get a 2 land hand with a turn 1 play, a turn 2 play, and then it has a 4 cost, a 5 cost, and you're like, okay,
What can else gonna do?
yeah. So when you get to turn 3, you don't draw anything, and then you don't draw your land on turn 4 either, and you're still sitting there with 1 and 2 cost stuff, but you're not making a big impact in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Where your lands, what are you gonna do if your land stops at 2? You know what I'm saying? Do you have plans for that?
Well,
Some of those situations.
my current deck, yeah, I have plans
Yeah.
for it, but like overall, yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely what you need to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like with the deck that I'm running right now with the mono black, it's like the reason why I even watched Brian Duzian earlier. I mean, like he didn't even eke. It's just with 1 land until like turn maybe 4 or 5 was able to respond and stuff and just play correctly. And like counter cards that actually had decent costs, just with the timing of what he was doing, got the most out of every turn and every, like, just that one land. Until the game finally gave him another one, and then he's able to survive further because now he has more options. And I do understand, like, based upon the deck is what you're trying to do or what responses you may or may not have. But then it's also like the concept I'm learning with the way that I've been just playing and not even necessarily looking for a win condition, because like all your cards are built towards you winning is the way I look at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, it's like, what can you do with the hand that you have, right? Because it's like, okay, you'll keep a one hand. I mean, you'll keep a one land hand because if you can use 5 cards out of the, 7, then it's worth it because now you still have 5 turns.
Yeah, exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
At a certain point in the game, though, it gets a little bit higher level because you do want to be able to, like, they talk about when you get to the point in the game where you can play 2 spells per turn. Like, you are, at a certain point, you are giving up being able to place 2 spells per turn, and that's where they start to outvalue you. Is if everybody can only play 1 spell per turn, and you're stuck on one land, like, whatever, and as long as you can keep doing it, you're good. But the moment they get into like 2 spell per turn territory, and you're only doing 1 spell per turn, you're not playing enough spells to answer their spells. You know what I'm saying? So they just kind of outvalue you.
When I think of Magic, I kind of think of it as like a real in-depth version of like like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Well, can I say something real quick in response to that?
Huh.
It's funny because he actually explained like literally what Magic's supposed to be. Like outside of like just like the concept of like the rules and all that stuff, like it's supposed to be 2 like magicians casting spells with the memories of 2 planeswalkers. Like, so you and I are the planeswalker, right? If we're playing against each other, and all the spells we're casting are spells from the experiences we've had. So your library is just your memories. Yeah.
Yo, that's actually really fucking.
That's why all the spells and stuff that are like mill based typically have something to do with like
memory
loss or scaring you, like, and stuff like that.
And when that hit me in the head, bro, I was like, yo, this just turned Magic into like an FPS with cards.
Yeah, literally.
Just like my deck went from here to like, oh, it's in my brain, and that's why you're supposed to know everything about your deck like that.
Well, everything, yeah. The land represents your connection to mana from the various places that you visited.
Yeah, bro, and that's like, oh, word. So it's like. It seemed like during this period in time in your mind you weren't traveling, therefore you're not drawing lands, but instead memories.
That's dope as shit.
And then when you're
drawing, your hand is your immediate conscious, what you're aware of. That's why like your library is your deep memory, and your hand is like what's currently on your mind. And
we're just talking Magic, right? It doesn't even necessarily have to be towards the gameplay of it.
No, we're talking about Magic the Gathering.
All right, word.
The flavor,
No.
That's the flavor of the game.
No, I'm talking about this conversation.
Yeah.
Because what I wanted to say is, that makes the game feel like... Because, for example, right, a turn in Magic goes from thinking about what cards you're playing to, like, all right, if you're thinking about it in the theatric sense or the lore sense, it's like, all right, it's like you're remembering the feeling of Earth, and that's why you're playing a land for a turn. You get what I'm saying? But then question, just like your regular memories, would your hand represent like your forefront thoughts that are already existing?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's your current like conscious thoughts.
Okay, so then your deck is what? Your subconscious thoughts that are coming up, or memories that you have?
Yeah, it's your deep memory.
Okay.
It's like as you battle, you remember different things.
So what does the graveyard represent?
Graveyard is just literally the spells that you've lost there in battle.
Yeah, but like in your mind in this game, does it represent like a lost memory, or does it represent like a weakness of thought or something?
I would say your graveyard is just like the craters. The graveyard is like the thought or kind of like a description of like what would be left on the battlefield. I had 3 cacophony scamps on the battlefield that did its work and
but it's not just like graveyard is just
shit.
It just represents the stuff that's lost. That's really all it does.
And what about exile?
Exile is stuff that's a little bit further beyond reach than graveyard.
Okay.
It's almost like they wiped it out from your or not wiped it out, but they pulled the thought out to where you can't
Of its
even read.
existence.
Yeah, of its existence during the battle.
Because look, right? For example, like let's say you did make a let's say you made a Magic FPS game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like certain abilities, I'm assuming would be just immediate card effects or uses. You know what I'm
If you
saying?
made a Magic FPS game,
Yeah, where like you're casting spells.
that'd be a
that
little
ways.
bit tough because you'd have to figure out how to work randomly getting land and turning it. You have to turn the whole turn-based situation into like
I would think of
simultaneous action.
nah.
Because
Nah.
they tried to do it with the ARPG.
I feel
You
like
remember
it
that?
was just
You-
way
do you remember
easier.
the
though.
ARPG?
But look at the
Which
evolution
one?
of RPGs.
The ARPG that they had that came out and flopped really hard for Magic the Gathering.
I don't even think it made it out though.
It made it to beta and then flopped really hard.
Oh, okay. I didn't play the beta. Yeah, but
Well,
I do know
I
what
played
you're
the
talking
beta.
about.
Well, what were you talking about the ARPG and what it? the
Wait,
action
hold
RPG?
on. Before
Yeah,
I lose this
RPG.
thought, though, I feel like the best way to make Magic into a FPS is just take the best planeswalkers and their abilities, right, and then figure out a
That
certain.
shit doesn't translate though.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so where's your graveyard? How do you
No,
get
no,
mana?
no. Because it's a FPS, right?
It has to have the feel of Magic though. It can't just be an FPS with Magic skin.
not Magic
What I would say
skin.
is, like,
more
for
in
example-
more in the sense of like
And not everybody's
like a
shooting.
league.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm
like
saying.
it, like kind of like Smite.
That's what I'm saying. You could do it
Smite
more like League
with-
and Smite, but I'm saying you
Yeah.
still have to figure
No,
out
because
how
look-
to translate stuff like mana and summoning creatures and being able to choose different. Like, how do you make it so that I can build? Because if I'm playing a Magic-based game, I want to be able to build my deck however I want. So, like, choose if I want to do all spells, all control, shit like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, right? So like,
That's what I'm saying. It
what
doesn't
you would start
exactly
with-
translate
what I-
because
what I feel
then
like-
you have to balance all that. And if you don't have mana and lands in Magic, people are gonna be tripping.
and that's
That's part of why Spell Slingers wasn't doing well.
Well, here's my
Yeah.
thing.
Okay, that makes sense because you're just literally slinging. Like
Yeah.
there's no mana, no nothing. You're just putting
Turn,
cards
turn,
out.
There has
Turn,
to be,
turn,
there
turn.
has to be some level of like in Magic the MOBA, you have to find a way to make it so that mana is something that you get from lands that you somehow fucking build. Like you have to
So, for
build and
example-
draw your deck while you're playing another game.
Well, yeah, and that'd be pretty dope. And that's what I was thinking because it's like, okay, you have a certain amount of slots of active things you could do, and then the mana gain system would be based off of the literal concept
But
of
that's
how
what
you
I'm saying.
explain
They
that.
tried to make the Magic ARPG was similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
People don't like having their skills be random.
Well, they're okay, but they're not random skills. They're just skills that you.
They
So, for
are.
example,
But
when
they
you're playing,
are.
no, but when you okay, I guess they are because in Magic your skills are random based upon what your hand is, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the representative of randomness would be. But I mean, for the people like myself who think that would be pretty fun because it adds a zany experience to like a FPS game, it'd be pretty dope. For example,
'Cause
like
they've-
you're
you've
walking
never
around.
really-
That doesn't necessarily last because people to have, especially when people that want to make it competitive, like there has to be a certain level of consistency that makes it able to be a competitive game, as opposed to like I guess Hearthstone is an example of a game that still has a competitive scene that's kind of pushed by Blizzard's itself, but like it's one of those things where like the RNG, I honestly think Hearthstone's kind of dead a little bit because the RNG and the swings in that game are just so ridiculous. Like Magic to me just makes sense as far as the scaling and the progression of like Standard has a particular turn target for when you should start winning the game, stuff like that. I mean they're gonna be breaking it next set.
But see, for a person like me, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah, and certain people actually do
Just
enjoy
being
that
honest.
randomness, dog.
But
Yeah.
that,
I
but that
get-
random that we call that I'm not saying people don't enjoy that randomness, but I'm saying that randomness is not
Yeah.
as fun as you think it is. That is stuff. This is the variance versus skill, right? You're not going to feel as rewarded in the end for winning with randomness, and as well as you're going to feel cheated of your win. You're going to feel cheated of your win when you lose to randomness as well. Where you do all the skill in the
I'm
world,
sorry.
and then all of a sudden this guy plays this card that does a bunch of random shit that happens to be, he got the 1 in
There's
100
this-
roll that beats you.
There's this classic game that's very similar to the idea of a game that I'm trying to explain right now, where it's like an active casting game that you build a deck that you bring into battle, but you
Talking about that VR shit with the
no,
wands.
it's not a VR game.
Oh.
No, it's a I don't know if it was on PlayStation, if it was on Xbox. Might have been even on PlayStation
Who's
1.
on you talking about Phantom Dust?
Yeah,
I played Phantom Dust. Phantom Dust was great.
bro, you can make a Magic game very similar to Phantom Dust.
You could.
That's
But
what I'm trying to say, though.
Phantom Dust, it was very unique and it still was underplayed.
Yeah,
it was a
but-
very tough game to wrap your head around if you didn't know what you were doing.
But okay, so all you have to do is take that mana gain concept and add it into, like, for example, in Magic, right? You're saying that when you're gaining mana, it's based upon when you walk around an environment and you're remembering the past of the environment you've been in. So it only makes sense for, okay, if you're using a certain character, then okay, if I'm playing against somebody that's playing against, and then they're using something, okay, we'd obviously be in an arena where you could find those types of mana sources, but based
I
upon
want
the
to be
cards
able to
you're
bring
using,
my own mana sources into. That's what I'm saying.
you do, and
I'd
you
have
do.
to be
You
able
bring
to,
them in based upon choosing your character. So, for example, right, the game recognizes you're running like a red-black deck, right? So obviously, you'd be able to walk around an environment where there's red and black mana access points that you'd be able to gain in order to go ahead and continue battling. But your opponent wouldn't be able to access them if they're not running those types of cards. Just like they'd also have a source of mana as well.
I wouldn't. See,
And that will come into like creating a whole type of arena. You get what I'm saying?
I wouldn't fuck with that though.
That'd be dope as hell, right? So let's say
Because that means that every time I get into your half of the arena,
No,
I get fucked over
it's-
for being in your area.
No, but it's not
No.
your half of the arena. It's like
Not
everything is spread out in a
necessarily.
certain way. That would be to a degree equal.
But I'm saying,
But not necessarily though,
but
right?
I'm saying from a person who plays Magic, I want my mana system in whatever similar game to work in the idea of how Magic actually works. Like I want to be able to control, like whatever the equivalent timing is to one turn. I should be able to have access to potentially playing one mana, right? At a certain point in the game, I should only have access to being able to play one mana abilities.
So then
At a certain point in the game, I should only have access to two mana abilities. It should refresh at a particular rate.
Yeah.
All
So
sorts of
what
shit.
are the what
So
are
then
the
I guess
games?
you would make it
what-
similar to like Splatoon's, the way you would like conquer the arena to a degree, and then you guys would just both go ahead and make the arena a certain type of thing, and then dominate it based upon that. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the concept in
I
and
would
of
want
itself.
I would want to be able to have a similar chance of getting. I'm saying, I want to be able to build my deck
Yeah.
and play lands and control that I have access to the mana from my lands that they produce, not by going through the arena and going to have to get mana.
So
and
what
shit.
are
But
the
you're
what
not
are the
getting
games?
it. You're
what-
just creating it based upon walking around and doing whatever you do.
What do you
'Cause
mean you're creating
just like
it
in
just by
Phantom
walking
Dust,
around?
like in Phantom Dust, right? You'd have to go ahead and fight, and you'd have to do certain things in order to gain mana, in order to use certain abilities. Just like for example, Final Fantasy Dissidia. You can't just come out using your strong ass shit. You got to go ahead and fight for a little bit, and then based upon how the fight's going, when certain things are opening up, you have access to even extra mana. Now it's just an idea, but obviously with Magic, you'd have to do it a little bit different. Now,
That's
how
what I'm
that
saying.
would
I
happen?
would want to just be able to go. I have one mana,
Yeah.
and I can do one mana whenever I have one mana. I
Exactly.
don't want to have to fucking do anything else for one mana.
You
Just
don't-
play mana. I can just play mana as a character. I should be able to go. Okay, this is my mana activation ability. It gives me one mana, or it lets me play a land or equivalent thing that I only have one of.
Okay,
per turn.
so why wouldn't you be able to do that? Is what I'm saying.
Maybe you can make the
Why
game
would you
like
not be able to do
Because
that?
the way you described it, it didn't sound like that.
But that's what I'm trying to say is happening. Because it's like, okay, I don't know what's getting misconstrued about it, but like when you go ahead, okay, so whatever concept you use to go ahead and do one thing per turn, because like you say, for example, right, even in an RPG, when you're playing, well, not Magic, when you're playing D&D, a turn is like, what, like 3 to 4 seconds?
6 seconds.
6 seconds. Okay, so the concept of 6 seconds, how would you apply that same concept to, okay, the amount of time of things happening within a game of Magic from hand to hand, right? From you being able to respond and the opponent being able to respond as well. You get what I'm saying? So however you'll be able to get that concept of the turn system down would be how you would translate that into an FPS system. You get what I'm saying? So if that's like, okay, within 6 seconds, I'm able to cast mana and do one mana type of things, and then also build upon that. However, that will look in I don't know, an FPS game, maybe more similar to like a arena type of game. You know, that would be the concept that you apply to that. You know, but I don't know how it will look. I'm just talking about the idea, and I thought that would be pretty cool because then you'd be able to still build a deck based upon what you want to do, and then maybe if you had teammates, you could have people that are playing with you that are able to do certain things as well. You know, almost like a 2v2 in Magic.
I
or
mean,
something.
people have tried little elements of similar things, and they either haven't been successful or haven't really worked out. It just doesn't really translate well.
So how do you get a game like Deadlock then?
How do you get a game like Deadlock?
Yeah,
It's a mashup of FPS and MOBA.
but MOBAs start off as RPGs.
They didn't start
Originally.
off as RPGs.
MOBAs went from
They did not start off as RPGs.
So, okay, the whole concept of a MOBA was introduced from World of Warcraft, no?
No, it was introduced from Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3,
Yes,
and that was based off of,
that's an RTS.
as an RTS. What is an RTS? A real-time strategy game?
Real-time strategy game.
And then that got translated into an RPG.
No,
Okay,
it got turned into a MOBA.
so If I'm not mistaken.
The original MOBAs like Heroes of New Earth and Dota were just Warcraft 3 mods originally.
Okay,
where people would take their players and then.
But I thought MOBAs were invented from the idea of RPGs and being able to fight against each other in the PvP arenas.
No.
So where'd that come from? Because that seems like that's more of what's going on in a MOBA game than the RTS thing that you're talking about.
That's what they've evolved into.
What do you mean?
That's what they've evolved into. You're seeing modern MOBAs and what they've become. They always had a hero that leveled because that was part of the RTS system. They took what was in the RTS and they focused on just purely controlling the hero. It's still not an RPG.
Okay.
It has RPG elements, and the hero happened to level because that was part of what happened in Warcraft 3.
Mm-hmm.
But like a bunch of the stuff, like last hitting and getting gold and shit like that, and having to go back to those were all the stuff that you see in League of Legends and original Dota was just holdovers from stuff that happened to be in Warcraft 3. A lot of the stuff that's mainstays in these games is just because that was in Warcraft 3, not because it's something from RPGs.
So, they've evolved, because what I'm thinking is from the RPG system, the whole turn-based combat is just like if you have access to your 4 abilities that then have cooldowns or you have limited uses on. It's the same thing that you see in a MOBA, for example. You have your 3 or 4 abilities that have cooldowns that you use periodically.
See, so it doesn't exactly work like that, especially if you're talking about D&D, because D&D has spell slots and it's based on how many spells you can cast per day, right? Like, this is the whole thing. This gets into a game I'm working on. That's why I'm only gonna talk so much about particular
let's just move the concept then.
But yeah,
you pass me what's called behind you.
Like there's limitations on all the things you're talking about that prevent people from.
Iced tea. All right, back to Magic.
Yeah.
So I was trying to talk about the FPS idea, but what were we talking about before that?
Well, one thing that we were talking about before we got into this tangent. That I wanted to talk about before we got into this tangent is the thing I asked CJ before we started this was he's a newer player, and I would say he's a new player in my opinion. Maybe he's been playing for like 2-3 years, something like that. And I wanted to ask him what are like 5 core questions that you would have as a newer player, or as he would put it, as a noob, and also what does he think distinguishes the difference between just being a newer player and being a noob?
Okay, so like one question I would have is like, what makes a card good, and how do I know I should play it? Like, for example, because we've been mostly playing. Well, I can even use when we went to the tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, when people are drafting, like, we didn't participate in the draft. We participated in the constructed deck, but with the draft, right? Like, I feel like unless you really know every single card, like you don't really know how to grasp it. So like, as a new player comes in, like that kind of intimidates you, because then now you're playing against people who know every single card, who know every single fucking thing to make it, and it's like no one kind of branches that for you. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, if I don't have a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in the game, and I'm building a deck on MTG, like, how do I know what makes it, like, you know? Like...
Oh, my God. That's actually that's a simple seeming question, but it's, like, hard to give you one really good answer on that. But typically, I'll go with, if a card has more text on it, it's probably going to be pretty good. Like, if it has more ability text, not flavor text. If it's got more ability text on it, it's probably going to be a better than average card.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Doesn't that doesn't that vary upon what you're playing? So, for example, I understand if it has more text, it might be good. But, like, that versus you doing a draft, for example. Like, because draft, isn't there a whole concept around drafting cards, too?
What do you mean?
Like you were talking about bombs.
Oh, bread. But yeah, that gets back into what we were talking about though. It's like the whole drafting concept of bread, right? Is bombs, removal, evasion, aggro, and dregs. And bombs are big, powerful creatures that or cards that change the game completely and basically win on their own. Removal is stuff that gets rid of like particularly typically creatures, but also sometimes enchantments or artifacts and stuff like that. Anything that kind of removes anything. Aggro is something that's aggressive or aggressively costed. Something that's better than a bear, like a 2/2 for 2, or has haste or something like that. And then dregs are just what's left over, and you want to try and get something decent from the dregs. But
I don't know what the fuck you're saying, dog.
Right.
No,
that's why I was-
no. Think about it like this. PEMDAS. When you're in draft, there's an order of operations. When you're building a deck, it's about synchronicity. That's how I think about
But that
it.
doesn't
And
answer. But that doesn't really
How
answer.
do you pick a card?
That's
No.
why I wasn't gonna go with the whole draft concept initially, and I'm saying it's a deeper question that you might really.
And that's why
realize.
I asked the draft question, because I honestly wanted to do a draft, and I've been really pondering drafts, which is why I wanted to move into that question. But if we're talking about just in general, then
Well, I just
go
wanted to
ahead and
answer
continue
the question that I
Yeah.
asked because like
Yeah.
I still don't understand like how
So,
do
like
you
I said,
pick a card.
like I said, so cards in general are a card with a lot of text is typically good, and then you want to see its relative strength relative to other cards, right? And you're never really going to be able to tell a card's good unless you just spend more time studying the game. There's no getting around it. You're gonna if you go to a draft, I wouldn't recommend going to a draft that you haven't studied the cards because you don't know what you're looking at. You're gonna try and learn the cards immediately right there and what's good with a bunch of stuff. There's 200 cards, and every card can interact with a bunch of other cards in a particular way where they have synergies, and you're not going to know them. That's crazy. Because then you're just going to go in there being like, well, I'm going to pick this, and you don't know how many cards you're looking forward to that could potentially go with it, and then you don't know how many cards are going to be solid on their own by themselves. Stuff like that.
So that's
Okay.
where you get in the concept of knowing sets, and the reason why he was saying like we're still like new or like to the concept of Magic,
Because this nigga knows every fucking shit.
because if he's seen sets come out over 30 years, like, all right, bro, we've only seen sets come out since we've been paying attention to the game, you know? And even then, we weren't learning sets. We were just kind of blindly playing, you know? So it might be cards you remember that you've seen before, but, like, we stand standard for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. And another question that I have is, what makes a deck meta, and why is the meta the meta?
What makes a deck meta? And what? Repeat that.
What makes a deck meta,
Mhm.
and why is the meta the meta?
And why is the meta the meta? Okay, so we have to we basically have to define what meta means, right? Meta game is the game around the game. The
Mhm.
game itself of Magic is the rules of Magic and the cards and the game pieces, right?
Mhm.
That's Magic. The meta game is all the other gaming we do around. Why don't you, nigga? I told you I got the goddamns.
And there's like 3 of them right here, bro.
But the meta game is the game around the game. It's the choices that everybody who plays the game is making, right? It's the choices that everybody is playing the game is making
hmm
in order to try and win the game or have whatever they consider to be their perspective on fun. Typically, the metagame, especially for Magic, is defined by the pro level gaming or competitive events, right?
hmm
There's so much data on Magic now. We can see which decks 5-0 leagues. We can see which ones win premier events. We can see which ones win like larger tournaments in paper. We have reporting on like every level in on digital, especially on Magic Gathering Online. And for big tournaments, we have MTG Top 8 and a bunch of meta sites, right?
Okay.
So if you want to determine what's meta, there's a couple ways to look at it. You can see what deck has won a recent tournament, because that could be shaping the meta currently, or you could look at decks being played overall, right? And if you look at decks being played overall, you want to look at their percentage of the game of the meta game share they take up. For a game to be meta, for a deck to be meta, it should be showing up in decent percentages at bigger tournament levels, right?
hmm
So if something's 10% of the meta game, 7% of the meta game, 5%, those are decently meta decks. The more meta deck is probably going to be the deck that's showing up at 10%, right? The higher percentage it shows up, the more meta it is,
Okay.
typically.
Okay.
And then when you're talking about countering the meta, it's when you want to try and either use another meta deck that goes against the most meta S tier deck and you think beats that, or you're typically going with a Rogue Horse candidate deck that may not be great overall, but beats the one of the better decks in the format that you think is going to show up at a high percentage.
Got you.
So the meta gets a little different. And then, like I told him in the first podcast, like there's the concept of the wheel, and this is in Next Level Magic as well. Not that sure, but this is in Next Level Magic as well, where basically there's the wheel of strategy, right? There's rush, economy, and defense. And in Magic, it comes down to combo, control, and aggro. Well, to match it up, it's aggro is rush, control is defense, and combo is economy. And those are the different ways you can typically go about winning a game. So that's the meta of the meta game.
Okay.
Whichever way it's swinging, you want to be able to try and counter it.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Another question I had was.
So, question, real
What-
quick. Even to go back to a previous question, he said, "What makes a card good?" Right? He said, "What makes it better than meta?" So, so when it comes to what makes a card good, right? It's like deciphering, I guess, what deck you're trying to put it in, right? Whether it's a rush deck or an economy deck. Because like in most decks, it's either going to be rush or economy in the first place, as far as like what the card does. Because
Rush
a combo
economy
card,
or
because combo cards are only good with other combo cards.
well,
within
rush
that same
economy or
deck, right?
defense. I would say economy is more combo.
Hmm.
Rush is aggro, economy is combo, and defense is control.
Okay, so like a ramp deck is combo, for example.
A ramp deck is still economy, but it's not necessarily combo.
Okay. Well, that's getting too specific with shit. All right, CJ, what was your next question, bro?
My next question was, what is the best way to get into Magic and learn more about it?
Oh man, the best way to get into Magic, the best way to get into Magic, find a local game store. Like if you don't have a bunch of friends around you, right?
Yeah, like just let's just say like I'm on the App Store, for example, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just looking up strategy games because I grew up playing strategy games,
Mhm.
and I stumble upon Magic, because there's like I know Magic is pretty like it's kind of tight knit, really. It's like the only people who's talking about Magic are people who's playing Magic,
Mhm.
so it's like it's kind of hard to just stumble upon it,
Mhm.
But like there are people that probably do just stumble upon Magic, so like.
Mhm.
How do you learn more and like where do you go?
I mean, as always, the internet's a great resource, but nothing really beats going to the local gaming store. Like, if you have friends around you who are willing to learn Magic, or if you like, you always kind of need somebody, especially if you're new. You need somebody who's better at Magic than you. That's the only way you're gonna get better at Magic. You can get on MTG Arena, and you guys would be floundering for years until you've gotten beat up enough. Have you wasted gems and gold coins trying to get there, getting beat up, and then show up and be like, okay, I'm finally decent maybe, and like I can go to F&M, and then like
Get
then
crushed.
you get crushed. Exactly, get crushed. Thinking you got that standard deck because like you somehow weirdly ground out to gold, and you're like, maybe I think I could do an F&M,
Man.
But yeah, so I would say definitely go to your LGS. Go to your local gaming store. Nothing beats going to your local gaming store and getting to meet people who have been playing the game longer in person and like having them really show you what good games of Magic look like at different levels of the game. And then just trying to build a network of people that you know that play Magic and gaming with them as often as you can.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And then also, watch videos on YouTube.
Okay.
Not Commander videos though.
Commander. Not Commander.
Not Commander videos. If you want to get better, don't watch Commander videos.
Okay.
Watch Louis Scott Vargas draft vintage.
Okay. Gotcha.
Watch him draft vintage cubes and how he evaluates cards and be like, yeah, this card's great because you want to do this, this, and this, and this card's trash because you don't want to do that.
All right. Okay. Another question is, when it comes to making a deck,
Yeah.
what should I be thinking about?
When it comes to making it,
Or should I go more in depth about the question?
What should
Or do
I
you
be
understand
thinking about?
what I'm saying?
It depends on what your quote unquote goals are as a deck builder, right? Are you trying to win or are you just trying to have some idea of fun?
Okay.
Fuck you.
Okay.
The question is, are you trying to win or are you trying to have some idea of fun?
They have been winning, all right?
And then if you're trying to win, then you want to analyze the meta and try to build a deck that either build a meta deck that is already built that you don't have to really do much thinking. Let's call it net decking. Or
Net what?
net decking.
Net decking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do that and just copy a list offline or online.
Okay.
Copy a list off of online,
Okay.
right? Or if you're trying to beat the meta, you look at all the meta decks and do heavy analysis and you figure out what's going to beat all the decks or the deck that's most popular. And you try to be counter meta.
Okay.
But it takes research no matter what. Otherwise, if you're just trying to have fun, find something that you think is a cool strategy and see if it's supported and then build it.
Okay. That makes sense. Alright. That's pretty much my questions right there.
Where
As far as like, you know, what should I know? I really want to get into recollecting. I already have like a base, but I want to like really get into it. You know?
you want aggressive holdings.
Yeah, I want aggressive holdings.
You want buckets of cards.
Not not how you have it. Like I want like binders and like file cabinets of
binders.
cars.
I had binders of file cabinets.
Yeah,
But
man.
eventually, if you have enough, I still got binders. If you have enough, eventually it gets to buckets.
Yeah.
It's called bulk, dude. Unless you're buying every single card singles. But I used to buy a box every time a set would come out. I would flip. I'd be so plus on boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every standard, because I was actually looking for cards for like modern and other shit.
Mm.
So every time a set would come out was for standard, I'd buy a box and then I'd see from the standard cards I had if I could make a deck from the cards I had. Then I'd go crush F&Ms with that deck, and then I'd flip anything I wasn't looking for from the box into store credit, and then I'd just go to F&Ms and then I'd win with the deck that I had, and then I'd flip that to more store credit, and then I'd just be on the infinite roll. I would pay like $100 every box, $100 every release for a box, but like I didn't always have to pay with cash. I'd be like, oh yeah, give me a box, and then I'm gonna turn these also in. I was flipping. I was always flipping.
That makes sense.
They start fucking you on store credit though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts off at like 65 to 75% trade-in value.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes down to like 50%. And then if you trade in too much, it's like 35%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because they know you're hustling them.
Yeah. And I would trade in for cash too. They give you so much bad value on cash. And I was still walking out with racks.
Jesus.
That's crazy.
That means
At that point, I would just start getting little knickknacks and shit. And
Or I
just
guess
collecting
like at the
shit so
store.
then they wouldn't have to give me cash. So I could still keep my hustle up.
No, you didn't have to get... I had to get cash because I didn't have a job.
Oh.
That was
I
your
needed
job.
money. I
Yeah.
was flipping magic cards.
That makes sense.
nigga, I was eating magic.
Sorry.
What's your... So you like your aggro deck currently?
I like it because it wins.
You like it because it wins. Okay,
That's
that's what I was
like-
going to ask you.
Like, it's not... I would love a different deck. You get me? I would love different... I like complicated shit. So, like, I would love a blue deck that I have to get a certain... You know, whatever the fuck. Extra cards, you know. I like fucking with people, so definitely counter spells and shit be fun. But,
Mhm.
like, I don't... It's just not the meta, and I'm not winning with that. The fuck I want to play that. Like, I do
Yeah.
like winning more than I like
I
just
don't really
playing
see
random
counter
shit.
spells in the meta at all.
Yeah, so, like, I don't...
I see removal, for sure. Removal be out there.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of removal. I
What
get
about that one
removed
Jace
every day.
What about that one Jace deck?
That one Jace deck, I mean, they don't even counter spells. They just do bullshit and then mill you up.
Which is, like, I like shit like that. I would love to do that. But, like, that's not what's winning. It's either that, what is that shit? Liliana deck?
The discard.
Mono
And
black?
the mono black with the
I don't know how meta mono black is. It's just strong.
Hey, bro, it's
You can
it's
see a lot
whooping
of it
my
on-
ass.
you can see a
Everything
lot
I
of it.
play against, I'm whooping green. Anything green got, I'm whooping anything white got. But as soon as I either go up against a mirror match or that Liliana shit, That's the only time I'm getting fucked over.
Yeah.
Seriously. Any other time, it's like you even just saw like the dude was playing the what is that shit?
I'll tell you this,
Beza.
Yeah, he was playing the Beza deck. I stabilized.
Yeah, and you beat him.
Yeah, so it's like
Well, it's not like you stabilized. He just almost stabilized multiple times and didn't. Because if his life wasn't low, you wouldn't have. I thought he had you beat with
You always
Basic
keep
because
your
he's about to
pressure
gain the 4 life, and he's at that 4 or 5.
I feel like when you make it to
Like,
2-4 against mono black, you kind of lose if you don't have a splash with something else. If you're shot that red, because like I've been running into like lots of the mouse decks that you run,
Mhm.
but then when they're splashed white, they have a lot of answers for my shit.
And that's what I have 2 decks. So I have Mice of Men.
Mm.
What?
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Oh. I have Mice of Men, and then I also have that's my white red splash red where I have like Lightning Helix and like what is that Offspring card
Something the mouse.
That trainer mouse bullshit. That the
Gives
Flower
double
Foot
strike?
Mentor.
yeah,
shit that gives
Flowerfoot
double strike?
Mentor. Yeah, and then I have Sea Glaive Mentor in there, and then
Oh no, Flower Foot Swordmaster.
Oh, do you have manifold mouse?
yeah,
Oh, you have Manifold Mouse now.
I think so. That's what's in there. No, let me check.
You don't have Manifold Mouse.
No, I don't.
Manifold
You
mouse.
have
is
Emberheart
a fucking-
Challenger and Monastery Swift Spear.
Manifold mouse is
And Coyote.
I think I don't lose with it often.
Yeah, I
but
do
when
run the
see
Coyote.
It does become a problem.
The Coyote's really good on what is it called?
What Coyote?
High Fire Hero. Cause
Oh,
soon
it's
as
an
it
enchantment?
no, it's not an
No,
enchantment.
this Coyote is it's a 2/2 that you can plot for a 2 and cost also 2 to play. It has haste, but when it comes into play, you can also target another target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains haste.
Yeah, when it ETBs.
Hmm.
So then I can if it comes out first turn 1 would be Heartfire Hero, and then turn 2 would be Coyote because it has haste as well. And then it gets the Heartfire Hero the +1/+1 because that's
So
the
it's a
Heartfire Hero
Yeah, 4
hero.
damage.
So now it's 3/3 plus
Oh.
the 2/2.
Because you have the +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, so it's 5. And that's 5 damage off.
So I just
off
kill
turn
Heartfire
2.
Hero as soon as I see it.
Yeah,
I can't
that's.
stand
I
that
mean,
motherfucker.
yeah. When I do a mirror match, I if I can't like, I'll waste Cacophony Scamp just to
Just to get
get
out the
rid
way.
of their characters or their creatures, not characters. Creatures.
Well, don't Scamp and Heartfire do the same thing?
No,
No.
Cacophony Scamp has 2 abilities, and also the death ability on Cacophony Scamp is different than the death ability on Heartfire Hero.
Yeah, Flowerfoot Swordmaster. You said what was the card again?
Manifold Mouse.
Manifold Mouse.
That's what it's called, right?
It's like a 2 cost, and it's a 2 offspring. Give another creature double strike.
It's a 1/2. Gives target creature double strike.
Yeah. I don't have that though. I mean, I'd add it. How many should I add?
You should be
in there?
running that. That's how I feel about it. Giving anything that you're running double strike after you.
I
put it
should
is
take off
crazy.
the Evolving Winds and Fable Passages, huh?
Yeah.
Those
Evolving
Fable
Wild and
Passages
Fable Passages
shouldn't
definitely
be in
shouldn't
your
be in the deck.
Because it's like you waste a turn where you could have done something.
Yeah. Why don't you just keep the lands that I gave you in there?
That was another conversation
don't
too. Why are you so against dual lands?
What are you talking about?
He's not.
No, he is.
What are you talking about?
Most of them that come in when they come in tapped.
See, you're not saying that's not dual lands; those are tap lands.
Okay, so tap lands. When you play, why are you so against tap lands?
Because they are tapped. You only get 1 land drop a turn. That means that if I have to play a tap land on that turn, I'm giving up full mana for that turn.
Mhm.
That's why I don't like tap lands.
Because you want your mana.
I want my mana, and I want it now.
I want my mana.
And I want it now. And then we're gonna clip that and turn that into a thing. That's at like 44 minutes or some shit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What did you think about Magic when you first started playing it though?
I hated it.
You hated it?
Well, the first time I ever played Magic was probably in the 10th grade in high school. After I kicked out, I couldn't play football for a season. And I was playing with my homies that played Magic, but we were playing football. And the first deck I ever was introduced to in the game of Magic was I played against was like this Eldrazi deck, and I think my homie was running Ulamog the Hunger, right?
Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, yeah.
Yeah, and like so my friends were like, "Yeah, Paul, you want to play? Yeah, I'm gonna use this deck. You use this one," and then I was like, "All right." And then eventually, when he played Ulamog and I lost the game because you can't do anything once he comes out, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not playing this with you again. Except for like you fucking set me up. Let's duel, bitch." You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was my introduction to Magic, and that's why I wasn't really as serious about it at first. Because I was like, and Yu-Gi-Oh, I
Did you
feel like
feel like you really understood the rules when you first started playing?
not at all. In Yu-Gi-Oh though, because that's what I was playing at the time. I was
Mhm.
like, I'd be able to like wipe the board or something, and instead of worrying about this, I didn't even know you had board wipes in Magic until like I started playing it online, and I was like, oh, I can craft a board wipe. So I love me a board wipe, dog.
Oh shit! I was thinking about this earlier, low key. This like one thing that I was surprised by, but it kind of makes sense that they did anyway, is the fact that they even gave niggas wild cards to be able to craft in MTGA. Like the fact that you can play Magic for free blows my fucking mind. Like still, because it's because they made wild cards, but it's still not as generous as the other guys that did crafting. Like Dust, like the Dust games, like in Hearthstone, how you can
You
turn
can
all
decraft
your,
a card and then
you
craft
can-
another one,
You can't do that in Magic.
No.
Yeah. So
and then you get copies of shit too.
yeah,
But what can you do with your copies?
They
You
turn
got
into cards.
wild cards. Like let's say you pull like you already got 4 like tiny bones, and then like you open a pack, you get another tiny bones.
I think that either goes to your vault or you get a wild card. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
I think that's how I got 38 commons.
I'm pretty sure that because they initially, I forget exactly how it goes because they had an initial setting for it that people weren't a fan of, and then they changed it to be more generous. And I think that's when they introduced the vault and stuff. Because like after you, like if you look at your progress, it should tell how many cards you have 4 of.
Mm.
But yeah, they changed how that all worked. But it made sense that like you guys wouldn't accept MTG if they didn't have wild cards. If you guys only had to unlock packs, it was the only way
booster
to.
packs and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's how I play, but it's not by choice. So I don't want to spend money. But if I didn't have wall cards, I'd be like, bruh, I can only complete missions to get packs or buy them. That would fucking suck. Cause Hearthstone, you just get shit for doing shit. Like you complete a campaign. All right, here you go. Let's give you like half the fucking set.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's how because Hearthstone's easier to keep up with the collections, but they release so
People
many.
still blow crazy money on Hearthstone.
Can I see the fork?
I don't know where it is.
Oh shit! I thought it was trash.
Yeah. So any other thoughts before we shut it down, boys?
Do you have any more questions?
About Magic or
About Magic, basically about the Ultra Greed gaming perspective, because we didn't get that we didn't get that deep into the Ultra Greed gaming perspective. You guys are still like
I thought I was in the Brotherhood of Black.
you guys are still spawnlings. You guys are still younglings in the way of the Ultra Greed. You guys are not new to the way of Ultra Greed in the dojo,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as greed ninjas in gaming, your greed levels are not off the charts.
All right, so what's going on with the greed levels then, homie? Because I've been asking. I mean, shit, we're getting value.
Like we're gonna start making commercials like, have you ever thought about keeping a 1-land hand and thinking you could get there? Ultra Greed might be for you. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys are too queasy about those 1-land hands. I'm like, I'm over here crushing niggas back to back with 1-land hands.
Brian's like,
Although Grigio says I do keep 1-land hands way too much.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I might get a land next turn. So it's
Nah,
okay.
but I also met a nigga. His belief in the heart of the card is way beyond mine.
He's
It
like,
was
no
insane.
land,
It pissed me
no
off so
plan.
much. I went to so this was in the early days of Ultra Greed, before Ultra Greed, when I was still just fucking with the homies, and it was like Burninators.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the homies I got my tattoo with. Burninator Squad, right?
Mm.
We go to my boy's hometown for Thanksgiving. We go to a local Friday Night Magic draft.
Mm-hmm.
We draft. I hate the way they did prizing because they did that fucking break down all the fucking rares in the pack and then put them all out on the table and everybody picks based on like winner. Like if you're winner at the end, you get to pick first from the prizing and then it goes around and everybody picks cards.
Mm.
Anyway, I played against this one dude. His belief in the Harley cards was so strong, he never mulligans. He always keeps 7 doesn't look. I was like, no way.
Did he win?
I was like, no way. He beat me.
Oh,
It was horrible. It was upsetting.
I know my deck's good.
He's like, doesn't matter. 7.
Yeah, no, he like laid him out. He was all very methodical about his shuffle. Laid out his 7, and then he just put him down. It's like, I'm keeping. And I was like, nah, you for real? He's like, no, I always keep. I was like, whatever, dog.
And he just swamps. Damn, that's
Yeah.
Hey,
crazy.
did you stack his deck? 'Cause I know there be cheating motherfuckers that be playing.
No, I don't stack decks. I don't do cheaty shit.
I said, did you stack
Did
it
he-
for him? Like, nah,
No.
bro.
I got Final Cut. No, I didn't stack it for him. He just lucky nigga. But also, you know, if you have like, it's like there's theories on shit for like when you don't see it the same way when I keep a 1 land hand, but I've done the studies on the geometric calculations on the likelihood of getting lands at certain times, right? And it's like if I have 1 land and you have a certain number of lands in your deck, I am like 80 to 90% to get a land off the top over my next 2 turns. And if I only need it over the next 2 turns, then I'm going to keep that. Because it's like 80 to 90 over the next 2 turns, and then like 70-some% over the next 2 turns after that.
Because thinking about it, it's the odds are 3 to 1, right? Or slightly over 3 to 1 that you'll get a land.
3 to 1?
No,
No,
1 to 3, right? Opposite.
No, that's not how it
You
works.
make
It's
the
hyper-
odds by how you
that's
build
not,
the deck.
That's not how it works.
In a 60 card deck, I have
That's,
23
that's
lands.
not how it works.
How does
It's
it go?
hyper geometric. It's the odds multiplied by the odds multiplied by the odds each time in a row.
Each
But
time
if I
in a
have
row.
if I have 23 land
Mm-hmm.
in a 60 card deck, that means 47 of those cards are 37 of those cards are not land, right?
Yeah.
So that means that if I like typically speaking over like so after I draw 7, I should have the chance of drawing out of those 3 cards 1 land, no? Or at least those 3 turns? Because in 60 you'll give it the 6 turns, I should draw at least 2 land, no?
There's a chance. There's no at least what you're going to draw. There's no
Okay.
at least. There's just a chance of what you're going to draw, and it's hypergeometric. It's based on the chances of the first draw combined with the chances of the next draw combined with the chances of the next draw, and then you have to do a whole sample size. There's like calculators you can get online that will do the mathematics for you. That's what I'm saying. Like if you read Next Level Deck Building, it'll break it all down for you.
Yeah, I'm still in I'm not that deep into decks over deck building.
Alright.
Past chapter 1 though.
Alright, guys. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna broadcast a match. We're gonna have the analyst, Ultra Greed, Metallicat 206, teach newcomer CJ Bangers.
Oh no! We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that live on stream.
Yeah,
Live
that's
on
good so
stream?
they can see what's
Yeah,
going on.
so
Oh,
they
they
can
can
see
see
what's
it?
going on. We're not
Alright.
gonna broadcast like that, but we're gonna shut it down here for right now.
Oh damn.
Or unless, are we gonna keep going?
I mean, it's up, you can do it. Up to you.
I mean,
We can always restart it and do another podcast.
do another podcast.
Yeah, because then we can get more thoughts coming in. We'll come back on
that's
the
what it's
next
all about.
one. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna make another
Peace out,
podcast
Josh.
after this.
Yeah.
That's like another hour of
Wait,
shit.
right
Well, not
after this?
right after,
Nah,
not
later.
immediately after. Like,
Okay.
get our thoughts together and shit, and then if
It's
it is
been about a week since
immediately
the last
after,
one, right?
then yeah.
No, that's what I'm
whatever.
saying. It's like another. That's like a whole another hour after this.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Cool. All right.
I'm not
We shutting it down. That's Ultra Greed Ninjas episode 2. Shut it down for right
Blah
now.
blah blah.